I
The
won't let
space
go this
station was
time.
quiet in the late hours, the kind of quiet that felt alive.
We are
Soft
together
hums
now.
of distant engines and the occasional flicker of neon lights filled the air. Among all this, Jonah kept walking, carrying his small daughter Leela on his hip. Life on the station had never been easy for him, but he had learned to manage. Being a single father in a galaxy full of aliens had its own challenges. Most of them barely noticed humans. They were just another species passing through. But Jonah liked it that way. Quiet, safe, predictable. He glanced down at Leela. Her small hands clutched his shirt and her bright eyes stared at the people moving around them. Despite her young age, she had already learned to read the expressions of other species, and she was careful, cautious. "Daddy," she said softly, "can we get something sweet before we go home?" Jonah smiled faintly, ruffling her hair. "Maybe just a little, Leela. We have a long walk ahead." They walked past a crowd of aliens, some tall and lanky, some short and round, others with translucent skin that shimmered in the neon light. Jonah kept his head down, hoping no one would bother them. It wasn't paranoia, just experience. Humans were rarely treated as equals here. Most species looked at them with mild curiosity or sometimes indifference. Then Jonah heard a soft voice behind him, almost like a whisper meant only for them. "My mom's tattoo, it matches yours." He froze. The words seemed to echo in his ears. Jonah turned slightly and saw a small alien girl, no older than Leela, pointing at the faded tattoo on his forearm. It was a simple design, a swirl of lines forming a protective symbol. It wasn't much, but it had meant something to him once, something important. Jonah's heart beat faster. That tattoo was private, personal, a memory he had carried alone since his wife had disappeared. How could this girl, an alien girl, know about it? Leela looked at the girl curiously, not frightened at all. "Really?" she asked. "Your mom has a tattoo like mine, Daddy's." The alien girl nodded. Her eyes, large and luminous, reflected a depth that Jonah couldn't understand. There was sadness there, yes, but also recognition, almost like she had known him for years. Jonah cleared his throat, trying to calm his racing thoughts. That's interesting," he said carefully. "Where did your mom get it?" The alien girl tilted her head, thinking. "She said a human made it, a human who helped her a long time ago. She called him kind." Jonah's hand tightened around Leela. He forced himself to remain calm. His mind was racing through memories long buried. His wife had disappeared during a deep space mission years ago. Official reports had said she was lost, presumed dead. And yet here was a child, an alien child, talking about her as if she were alive. He took a deep breath. "Your mom, do you mean she's gone?" he asked carefully. The girl's eyes shimmered. "Yes, but she told me stories about him, about humans. She said they stay when others leave." Jonah felt a lump in his throat. His wife had always believed in helping others, even when it put her at risk. But he never imagined the galaxy would remember her kindness. Or that someone, even another species, would carry her memory forward. Leela tugged at his arm. "Daddy, can we talk to her?" Jonah hesitated. He didn't know this girl. He didn't know her family, her motives, or even if she was safe. And yet there was something in the way she spoke that felt honest, real. He nodded slowly. "Okay, let's talk." They moved a few steps closer. Jonah crouched slightly to meet the girl's eyes. "Hi, I'm Jonah, and this is my daughter, Leela. What's your name?" "I'm Mara," the girl said softly. "I wanted to meet you. My mom, she said your tattoo means a lot." Jonah looked down at the tattoo on his arm. It was faded now, the colors worn from years of sun, water, and time. Back then, it had been a gift from his wife, a symbol of protection, a reminder that even in the vast loneliness of space, some things were worth holding on to. He had never thought it would become meaningful to anyone else. How does your mom know about it?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Mara looked at him, her eyes serious. "She said you helped her. She called you brave, I think, and kind. She said humans are different, that you stay when everyone else leaves." Jonah swallowed hard. No one had ever said those words to him about humans. He had never thought of his species as special. They were small, fragile, and often overlooked in a galaxy full of advanced alien civilizations. And yet here was a child, an alien child, telling him that humans were remembered, that humans could matter. A quiet hum sounded behind them. Jonah turned slightly and noticed a few station officials watching. They weren't close, but close enough to notice. Jonah's stomach tightened. The galaxy rarely cared about human stories, but now somehow this little encounter had drawn attention. He looked back at Mara. "Your mother, she really believed that humans could make a difference?" he asked. She nodded, a small smile forming. "She said humans have something other species don't. They care, even when it's hard." Jonah felt a warmth spread in his chest. He had spent years alone, struggling to raise Leela, worrying that humans were weak, fragile, and insignificant in the universe. And yet this child, this small alien girl, reminded him that humans had a kind of quiet strength, a strength that didn't need weapons, politics, or technology. Leela reached out to Mara, holding her small hand. "Do you want to play?" she asked brightly. Mara hesitated for a moment, then nodded. The two children began walking together, laughing softly, their voices blending with the distant hum of the station. Jonah watched them, feeling a strange mix of pride and disbelief. Somehow through loss, through time, through the quiet pain of being human, they were still making an impact. Jonah realized something then. The galaxy might overlook humans, might underestimate them, but humans had a power that no one else seemed to understand. They could care. They could endure. They could leave a mark that lasted even across species, across time. He looked at Mara once more. "I'd like to hear more about your mom," he said softly. Mara's eyes brightened. "I can tell you stories," she said. "Stories she told me. About humans and the galaxy." The father nodded. For the first time in a long while, Jonah felt hope. Maybe he wasn't just a human raising a child alone on a station full of strangers. Maybe, somehow, humans had a role to play that went beyond survival. The station's corridors stretched endlessly ahead, filled with alien voices, lights, and the hum of life. And Jonah, holding Leela's hand and watching Mara step carefully beside them, felt for the first time that the galaxy was not as cold as he had always feared. Somewhere, somehow, humans mattered, and that was the beginning of something that would change everything. Jonah led Leela and Mara through the winding corridors of the space station. Every step seemed heavier than the last. The station was alive with movement, aliens from countless worlds passing through, but Jonah hardly noticed them. His mind was filled with the alien girl's words. "My mom's tattoo matches yours." How could that be? His tattoo was private, something shared only with his late wife. And yet Mara spoke as if she had known it all along. As they walked, Jonah glanced at Mara's small hands. They were delicate, pale in the glow of the neon lights, and yet they held a certainty he had never seen in a child before. "Your mom," Jonah said carefully, lowering his voice so Leela wouldn't misunderstand. "What exactly did she say about the tattoo?" Mara looked up at him, her luminous eyes steady. "She said it was special, that it showed humans who stay, humans who care. That it marks someone who helps even when no one else will." Jonah felt a lump in his throat. He remembered the day he had gotten the tattoo, back when he and his wife were young and full of hope. They had designed it together, a simple swirl of lines meant to symbolize protection and courage. At the time, it had been their secret, a promise to always look out for each other. He shook his head slightly. How could anyone else know about it, especially an alien? "Jonah," Leela said softly, tugging at his sleeve. "Can we ask her more?" He nodded, forcing a calm smile. "Yes, but gently. Mara, how did your mom know about it?" The girl's small brow furrowed. "She said a human helped her long ago. Not with weapons, not with orders, with care. She called him brave and kind. She said he stayed when everyone else left." Jonah froze. The words stirred memories he had tried to bury. Years ago, his wife had been part of a deep space exploration mission. She had gone to an alien world to help a struggling colony. Officially, she had disappeared, presumed lost. The reports said she died in an accident. But now, hearing Mara speak, Jonah wondered if there was more to the story. "Your mother, she's talking about my wife?" Jonah asked slowly. Mara nodded. "Yes, she said humans are different. They have something no one else does, something that lasts." Jonah swallowed hard. The reality of the galaxy struck him suddenly. He had always thought humans were ordinary, overlooked in a universe full of advanced species. But here, in the words of a child from another world, he realized humans had a quality that others remembered: a quiet strength. They reached a small observation deck overlooking the stars. Jonah placed Leela down on the bench and sat beside her. Mara sat across from them, her small body radiating curiosity and calm confidence at the same time. "Tell me about your mom," Jonah said gently. "What did she do that made her think humans were special?" Mara's eyes lit up. "She said humans help because they choose to. They stay when it is hard. They care even when no one asks." She said, "Humans can make a difference because they love, not because they want power." Jonah felt warmth spread through him. He remembered the nights with his wife, talking about the colonies they had helped, the small villages on distant planets that had needed guidance. They had done it quietly, without recognition. And now, Mara's mother had carried that memory forward. Leela, sitting beside him, tilted her head. "Daddy, do you think Mom really helped them?" Jonah nodded slowly. "I think she did, Leela, and maybe more than we ever knew." Mara's expression grew serious. "She told me stories about a time humans came when no one else would. She said your wife saved a whole colony not with weapons but with her heart." Jonah stared at her. His mind raced. Could it be true? His wife had always been brave, yes, but a whole colony. It seemed impossible. And yet, Mara's certainty was undeniable. Why did she tell you this?" he asked finally. The girl's small shoulders lifted in a shrug. "She said humans forget sometimes, that humans think they are small, but the galaxy remembers. She wanted me to remember for them, so they are not forgotten." Jonah felt a deep emotion he had not felt in years: pride. A quiet, swelling pride. Humans, his species, had survived in a universe that rarely noticed them. They had endured. They had helped. They had mattered even if no one had recognized it before. Just then, a soft alarm sounded from the observation deck. Jonah looked up to see station officials approaching. Their movements were calm, but their attention was focused entirely on him. Jonah's stomach tightened. He had lived his life quietly, avoiding trouble. He had kept Leela safe, and now he seemed to have drawn the attention of the station authorities. The lead official, a tall alien with pale green skin and eyes that glimmered like liquid silver, stopped in front of them. "Jonah," the alien said in a measured tone. "We need to speak with you." Jonah nodded, feeling the weight of history pressing down on him. He looked at Mara, then at Leela. "Stay here," he said softly. "I won't be long." Mara nodded, but her eyes held understanding. She knew this was serious. And somehow, Jonah felt she trusted him, even though they had just met. He followed the officials down a narrow corridor to a private chamber. The walls were lined with screens displaying data from various parts of the station. One of the screens showed images of distant planets, colonies, and star systems. Jonah could barely understand it all, but one thing caught his eye: a familiar symbol on one of the colonies. The swirl of lines. His tattoo. His breath caught. That's my wife's design," he whispered. The lead official inclined their head. "Yes, we recognized it as a symbol of protection, a human design that saved a colony decades ago. We have only recently confirmed the identity of the human responsible." Jonah's heart pounded. You mean she survived?" The official's eyes were steady. "Yes, she survived. She helped an alien colony that was in danger, not with weapons, not with force, but with guidance, empathy, and careful planning. The colony honored her with their own symbols." And now her legacy lives on through her child and the stories passed down. Jonah felt his knees weaken. For so long he had mourned, believed he had lost her forever. And now she had left a mark that bridged species, generations, and even planets. He thought of Leela and Mara sitting together, laughing earlier. Somehow it all made sense. The galaxy remembered humans, even if humans did not always remember themselves. Why tell me now? Jonah asked finally. The alien looked at him with something almost human in its gaze. Because humans are rare in this galaxy. You do not often have the opportunity to see the results of your choices. Your species is underestimated, yes. But the galaxy remembers when humans act with courage, kindness, and loyalty. Jonah swallowed hard. For years, he had lived thinking that humans were small, powerless, and ordinary. And yet, standing here hearing this, he realized that humans had a kind of power the galaxy could never measure in numbers or weapons. They had emotional endurance, compassion, a quiet strength that influenced worlds. He felt a tear roll down his cheek. I didn't know, he whispered. You didn't need to, the alien said softly. Your wife made sure the memory endured, and now her story has reached you. Humans are remembered, Jonah, even if you think you are ordinary. Jonah nodded slowly. He felt the weight of responsibility, yes, but also a warmth he had not felt in years. He realized that Leela, Mara, and even the distant colonies she had helped were part of a living legacy. A legacy of humans who stayed when others left, who cared when no one else would. When he returned to the observation deck, Mara and Leela were waiting. The two children looked at him expectantly. Did they? Mara asked softly. They did, Jonah said, kneeling to meet her eyes. They told me everything. Your mom, she really helped people. And she made a difference. Mara's small face lit up with a smile. Leela reached out and held her hand again. Jonah watched the two of them, and for the first time in years he felt a profound hope. Humans were small in the galaxy, yes. Fragile, yes. But their choices, simple, compassionate, and brave, could echo across time and space. And Jonah knew that he and Leela, like Mara, were part of that story now. The station lights flickered softly, the stars beyond glowing like tiny lanterns. Jonah felt a deep peace settle over him. Humanity had left a mark, and now they would continue to do so, one choice, one act of kindness at a time. The space station buzzed quietly with life, but Jonah felt a strange stillness inside him. He had always known humans were resilient, capable of surviving in the toughest conditions. Yet until now, he had never truly understood how far that resilience could reach. The alien girl, Mara, and her mother's stories had opened a door to a legacy he had never imagined. Jonah glanced at Leela, who was busy chatting with Mara. Their laughter rang softly through the observation deck, a sound so ordinary yet so profound. Humans had survived countless challenges, often silently, yet here was proof that their actions had left marks across the galaxy. He took Mara aside gently. Tell me more about your mom, he said. What exactly happened on that colony? Mara's eyes glimmered. She said it was hard, really hard. The colony's people were afraid, tired, and they didn't trust anyone from outside. Other species came, tried to help, but they left when things got difficult. She stayed. She didn't give up. She learned their language, their culture, and she found ways to help them without taking control. She said humans can understand even when others cannot. Jonah nodded slowly, absorbing each word. His wife had always been determined, compassionate, and clever, but he had never realized her influence could be so wide. She had changed lives without force, without recognition, simply through patience and care. I see, he said quietly. Humans, we sometimes underestimate ourselves, but we keep trying even when it's difficult. Mara smiled softly. Exactly. She said humans make a difference because they care. That's why she told me to remember, so we don't forget. As Jonah listened, he felt a swelling pride, not just for his wife but for all of humanity. Humans had survived through intelligence, empathy, and courage. They did not need advanced technology or weapons to leave a mark. They left it through choices that showed kindness and strength. A soft chime echoed across the observation deck. Jonah turned to see the station officials returning. This time there was a group of them, carrying small devices and speaking in low tones. They were curious, but their demeanor suggested respect. Jonah realized that the station itself had begun to acknowledge humans differently, not as weak, but as essential participants in the galaxy's story. The lead official approached him again. "Jonah, we have confirmed more details. Your wife's actions saved lives. Entire colonies survived because of her guidance. She was strategic, careful, and uniquely human. Others could not have succeeded in the same way." Jonah felt his chest swell. Humans were small, yes, fragile, often overlooked, but their emotional strength, their ability to care, to persist in the face of indifference, had shaped entire worlds. "She did all of this without any weapons?" he asked in disbelief. The official inclined their head. "Yes. She relied on empathy, patience, and understanding. She showed that humans are capable of creating peace through persistence and moral courage. It is a rare skill across species." Jonah closed his eyes. The years of quiet struggle of raising Leela alone suddenly seemed to have a greater purpose. Humans weren't just surviving, they were leaving legacies. Small acts of care, choices guided by love and compassion, could ripple across galaxies. He returned to Leela and Mara. "Do you want to hear more stories?" he asked gently. Mara nodded eagerly. "Yes. She told me about a festival the colony had for humans. She said they made symbols, drawings, even tattoos to honor the ones who stayed." Leela's eyes widened. "Tattoos, like yours, Daddy." Jonah smiled faintly. "Yes, a bit like that, but they meant more than decoration. They were a symbol of trust and protection." Mara's small hands hovered over Jonah's tattoo as if she wanted to touch it. "She said humans can do things no one else can. Even small humans can change everything." Jonah felt a deep warmth. Humans were often underestimated, ignored, or dismissed, but the galaxy remembered. And now, through Mara, he could see the truth. Humanity had a kind of strength that wasn't measured in speed, power, or technology. It was measured in endurance, loyalty, and care. As they spoke, a small crowd had gathered nearby, aliens and humans alike, listening quietly. Some whispered to each other, clearly intrigued by the story. Jonah realized that his family's private history was slowly becoming part of a larger truth, that humans could matter in ways others did not understand. One of the officials approached Jonah again, a recorder in hand. "We want to document this," they said gently. "Your wife's story, your experiences, your humanity. It is important that others understand the impact humans have." Jonah hesitated, then nodded. "If it helps others see humans differently, then yes." The recorder activated, capturing Jonah's voice, Mara's descriptions, and Leela's laughter. The story of quiet human courage would now be shared across the station, perhaps eventually across the galaxy. Jonah leaned closer to Mara. "You said your mom wanted you to remember humans, right?" Mara nodded. "Yes. She said one day the galaxy would understand. And now I think humans are ready." Jonah smiled faintly. "I think you're right." They continued walking along the observation deck, Mara pointing out stars and distant colonies. Each story she told made Jonah feel both humbled and proud. Humans had survived not because they were the strongest, but because they cared deeply, even when no one else noticed. Their legacy was quiet, subtle, but powerful. Hours passed, and the stars shifted in the station's viewport. Jonah realized that this was more than just a personal revelation. It was a chance to show the galaxy what humans could do. He had raised Leela in isolation, thinking small, fearing failure. But now, through Mara and the stories of her mother, he saw a future where humans were recognized for their greatest power, emotional strength. Leela tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy, can we help too?" Jonah looked down at her small face, full of hope and curiosity. Yes, Leela, we can help. That's what humans do, they help even when it's hard. Mara smiled. Then we can make a difference like she did, together. Jonah felt a profound sense of unity. Across species, across worlds, humans could create change not with force but with care. He saw that legacy wasn't only about his wife. It was about the choices he would make now, the example he would set for Leela, and the story they would tell together. The observation deck quieted as other travelers passed by, some casting curious glances, others walking past unaware. Jonah felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humans were small in the galaxy, yes, but they had endurance, courage, and empathy. And those qualities could ripple farther than anyone imagined. As the night deepened, Jonah held Leela's hand and watched Mara point toward the distant stars. He realized the galaxy was vast and often indifferent, but humans could matter in ways no one else could. It wasn't about strength, speed, or technology. It was about care, patience, and persistence. Jonah smiled. "We'll keep going," he said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. "We'll keep making a difference, one small act at a time." Mara's eyes shone, just like she did. And Jonah knew it was true. Humans, small and fragile though they might seem, could leave marks that lasted across time, space, and species. They could endure, they could care, and they could inspire. That was humanity's true strength. For the first time in years, Jonah felt hope, not just for his family, but for the species he had once underestimated. Humans mattered, and now the galaxy was beginning to see it too. The stars outside the viewport seemed to shine a little brighter. Leela's laughter echoed softly. Mara's small voice recounted another story, and Jonah realized that the legacy of humans, the quiet, unyielding, compassionate strength, was only just beginning. The space station glowed softly under the light of distant stars. Jonah walked slowly through its corridors, holding Leela's hand. Mara was beside them, her small fingers intertwined with Leela's. There was a quiet energy among them now, a sense that something important had begun, a thread connecting humans, aliens, and the galaxy itself. Jonah thought of his wife. For years he had mourned her as lost, believing her absence had left only emptiness. And yet through Mara he saw that her spirit lived on, not just in memory but in action. Her compassion, her courage, her determination had shaped the lives of countless beings across the stars. And now, Jonah realized that humans, small as they were, could leave legacies that reached far beyond what anyone imagined. They reached a large observation hall where other travelers paused to watch the stars. Jonah, Leela, and Mara found a quiet corner. Jonah knelt beside the children, looking at their eager faces. "Do you understand what your mothers did?" he asked gently. Mara nodded. "Yes. She saved people, she taught them, she showed them how to survive and to care." Leela's eyes sparkled. "And we can too, right, Daddy?" Jonah smiled faintly. "Yes, Leela, that's what humans do. We help when it's hard, we stay when others leave. That's how we make a difference." Mara's gaze shifted to Jonah. "You're like her too. You care about us, about everyone. That's why she would want us to meet you." Jonah's chest tightened. He had never thought of himself as exceptional, just a man raising a daughter in a galaxy full of strangers. But hearing Mara's words, he realized that small acts, listening, teaching, guiding, protecting, were more powerful than he had ever imagined. Just then, a group of station officials approached. They were not here with orders or warnings this time. Their expressions were calm, respectful, even admiring. "Jonah," the lead official said, "we have reviewed your wife's contributions. It is clear that her actions, and by extension yours, represent the best of humanity. You have shown that humans can create change in ways no other species can, through care, endurance, and moral courage." Jonah looked at the official, surprised. You really think so?" The alien inclined its head. "We have studied the colonies your wife helped. Entire civilizations survived because of her guidance. And now, Your daughter and Mara carry the next part of that legacy. We want to acknowledge it, to make sure others in the galaxy understand the value of humans." Jonah felt a lump in his throat. Humans, small as they were, had made a mark not with weapons or dominance, but with empathy, patience, and understanding. For once, he realized that being human wasn't a weakness. It was a quiet, powerful strength. Mara looked up at Jonah, her small voice soft but firm. "Can we help more people like she did?" Jonah nodded. "Yes, Mara, that's what we'll do. We'll keep helping even when it's hard." Leela smiled, holding Mara's hand tightly. "We'll be like Mom, right, Daddy?" Jonah smiled, a deep, warm feeling spreading through him. "Exactly, Leela, we'll be like her. And better, too, because we'll keep learning, keep caring, and keep going when others might stop." The officials stepped back, allowing the small group to look out at the stars. Jonah took a deep breath. He realized that the galaxy was not just a cold, indifferent place. Humans might be few, fragile, and underestimated, but their ability to care, to endure, and to create connections was extraordinary. It was a strength that could shape worlds, build trust, and create hope. Mara leaned against Jonah, her small head resting on his shoulder. "Your tattoo, it's like a bridge, isn't it?" she said softly. "Between humans and aliens, between stories and reality." Jonah looked at his arm, the faded swirl of lines on his skin. She was right. The tattoo was no longer just a symbol of his wife's promise. It had become a bridge of understanding, a reminder that humans could matter, even in the farthest corners of the galaxy. "Yes," Jonah said quietly, "it's a bridge, and now it belongs to all of us. To Leela, to Mara, and to everyone who will remember what humans can do." Leela clapped her hands softly. "Then let's make more bridges," Jonah chuckled. "Yes, we will, one bridge at a time." As they spoke, other travelers began to notice them. Some paused to listen. Some simply smiled, sensing the quiet power of the small group. Jonah realized that their actions, simple as they were, could inspire others. Humans had a ripple effect, a way of influencing the galaxy without aggression, without conquest. Through care, persistence, and moral courage, they could leave marks that lasted across generations. The night outside deepened, stars shining bright against the endless void. Jonah held Leela's hand and looked at Mara, then at the sky. He understood now what his wife had always believed, that humans were capable of extraordinary things, not because they were strong or fast, but because they could care more deeply than anyone else. That capacity for love, endurance, and loyalty was humanity's true power. "Mara," Jonah said softly, "your mom wanted you to see this, didn't she?" Mara nodded. "Yes, she wanted me to know humans can matter, and now I know. I'll tell others too." Jonah smiled. "And we'll help you. Together we can make sure the galaxy never forgets." The three children, Jonah's daughter and Mara, began walking through the observation hall again, pointing at stars, sharing stories, and imagining what they could do. Jonah followed, feeling the weight of responsibility, yes, but also a profound hope. Humans were small, yes, but their strength was in endurance, compassion, and the bonds they created. Hours passed, and the stars seemed to shimmer a little brighter. Jonah thought of his wife, smiling at the legacy she had left behind. He thought of the colonies she had saved, the lives she had touched, and now of the next generation, the children who would carry the story forward. Finally, Jonah stopped in a quiet corner, letting the girls run ahead slightly. He looked out at the infinite expanse of stars and whispered, "You did well, all of you. Humanity, we did well." A quiet voice answered him, soft but full of understanding. "We'll keep going, Dad," Leela said. Jonah nodded, tears brimming in his eyes. "Yes, we will, always." The three of them stood together, looking at the stars. A small human family, connected not just by blood, but by courage, love, and the legacy of a woman who had taught them all that even the smallest humans could shape the galaxy. And in that quiet moment, Jonah understood something fundamental. Humanity's strength was not measured by power, numbers, or technology. It was measured by endurance, compassion, and the ability to care. That was a force no one could ignore. The galaxy, vast and indifferent as it seemed, was beginning to see the truth. Humans mattered. Their choices, their love, and their quiet courage could shape worlds, connect species, and leave marks that lasted far beyond their lifetime. Mara looked at Jonah, then at Leela. "We'll keep building bridges," she said confidently. Jonah smiled. "Yes, we'll keep building bridges, and maybe, one day, the whole galaxy will understand what humans can do." And with that, the small group of humans, father, daughter, and alien friend, walked on, under the glow of distant stars, carrying a legacy of hope, care, and enduring strength that would echo through time and space.